How's it going, folks? Well, we've got another video about harvesting firewood today for you. This is in another part of my farm. I'm just right off the edge of a field here, as you can see, and we had a blowdown with some strong winds that we've had in the last couple weeks. This tree just came right up out of the roots. I can kind of show you here a little bit. The ground is kind of rocky here under the soil, so the roots just, I guess the tree roots, they just can't get the kind of grip that they need. Also, it was not just windy, it was also very wet, so the soil was not as firm perhaps. This is, I believe, a red oak. I do much better when I have leaves on the tree rather than just looking at the bark, but I'm pretty sure it's a red oak. Not huge, but till I cut up all these smaller pieces, you know, this, I can go down to maybe 1.5 inches in diameter to still get wood that'll burn without just wasting my time. So this is a multi-topped tree, as you can see. It maybe, well, from the Y here, it's about maybe 15 feet high, and then it's split into this Y branch, and then it goes from there. So there's a fair amount of wood here, considering that. If this had lived and had continued to grow, I'd have gotten a decent saw log out of it, but nothing I can do now. The wind just did it, so lose the saw log, gain the firewood. Now there's another oak close by here that blew over as well. I'll stop the video and show you that in just a minute. That was also a blowover, but that happened earlier during the winter. I saw it up here a few months ago. I just haven't been able to get up and get it. So now that I have the two here, I'm going to have a decent amount of oak firewood for, I don't know if I can do it next spring yet. It's the end of April now. I might not quite have enough time for the oak to season. Oak you should season for at least a year. We'll see how it goes. It's either going to be for the end of the burning season next year or the following, say the following fall. I don't know. We'll see how it goes and see how it's drying for me. So but it will have good BTUs. I love burning the oak when I get it. I don't like cutting the healthy trees down because they're valuable for saw logs, but when something like this happens, hey, you do what you can. So I'll come back to you with a look at the other tree that I'm going to take down here too, or cut up. It's down, and you can see that blow down as well. Another tree that blew down, as I said, this one was growing right along this tiny little stream here, and as you can see, again, the ground is rocky underneath the topsoil, and so the roots spread out horizontally rather than going down deep vertically. So again, when you get the wind and not deep root structure, this is what happens. The trees blow over. Here, this was close to the stream, so the tree had plenty of moisture just from the stream, which it might be another reason why the roots didn't go as deep looking for moisture, because it was right here. Let me take you around here. You can see this is another red oak, I believe. It's not bad size either. This one's more of a shame than the other one because this had one straight trunk here almost all the way to the top, and if this would have grown, say, another 10 years or so, I might have gotten 2 decent sized saw logs out of this one rather than just one, because as you can see, it's just one single trunk all the way till you get to the very top, which is ideally what you want for timber trees. You want one straight shaft of wood that's good size, because that's where you're cutting your lumber from. If you're looking for trees for firewood, of course, the multi-tops gives you more wood to cut up with smaller pieces, but you still get a good total amount of wood. But for the saw logs, this is kind of what you would like if it had been able to grow larger, say 18 inches or so in diameter. They cut saw logs down to about 12 or 13 inches in diameter because you want to get at least a minimum of a 12-inch piece of board, whether a 1x12 or a 2x12. So that's typical, but this didn't make it, of course. Now this section of woods that I'm in right now is pretty good with hardwoods. I have a number of, oh, there's a dead tree too that I can take out. I think that's a white pine or a white oak if I'm looking correctly, but that one's completely dead. I didn't notice that one before, but if you look up there you can see that's completely dead, so I'll have to come back for that some other day, cut that. That'll definitely be able to burn next year. But as I was saying, I've got a lot of good timber in here. There's a white oak, a hard maple, a white oak. That's I can't tell what that one is. And there's red oaks there. There's a shagbark hickory right there. Some more hard maples, some more red oaks, some more white oaks. So this was a very nice section of woods as far as good hardwoods go. The guy who took the timber out did cut this pretty thoroughly. I mean, he didn't take anything small out. He took the mature ones, but this is what's was left and is continuing to grow now in the last 3.5 years since this was taken out. Probably, I'm thinking maybe 10 years from now this stuff will be big enough that I can bring them back into this section and take these out. They'll be large enough in that time. Hardwoods grow slowly, but the soil here is fairly nutritious because there's a fair amount of leaf cover and deer poop and other critter poop, and also the water, it's wet enough that they get all the moisture that they need. So we'll see what happens, but this could be another good section to harvest. But in the meantime, for me and my needs for firewood for this next year, well, here we go. Another blowdown, another nice amount of wood that I'm going to get out of the deal. And like I said, not noticing this before when I was in, I guess I just didn't look all the way up because I was looking at the tree on the ground. This dead piece of white oak, and even though the top is dead and is probably fairly well rotted, I'm sure the bottom is still pretty solid, so I'll have a good amount of good quality firewood from that as well. So we'll work on that. And I just wanted to show you this. I've got to cut up both of these trees now. I also have, where is it now? I don't see it right in front of me. Up in the woods here further. I noticed it the other day when I came down and looked at this. I don't know if you can see it there in the briars. Let's see if I can zoom in without the camera going out of focus. Right there in the middle of those briars is a huge red oak stump. When it was basically a twin trunk tree. Trunk split off just a couple feet off the ground, 3.5 feet off the ground. So what the timber harvester did is he cut up high on the stump. He couldn't use the split trunk for saw logs. So there's probably 2 good slices there of firewood in that, and it's huge. It's like 3.5 feet across. So if I can cut that off, cut 2 pieces off of that, if I can get it out, because that'll be hugely heavy, that's a lot of firewood to just go to waste there. And it's good solid red oak. So I'll probably get to that when I can. I have to get this done now because as the summer progresses, spring progresses into summer, it's miserable to work in the woods in the summertime. I usually don't, for a number of reasons. One is because you have so much thick vegetation to have to battle, and briars and things of that nature, plus other stuff comes up. It's just a pain, which means more ticks to have to deal with. And then of course you get into the other critters of spring and summer. You worry about snakes, you worry about mosquitoes and bugs and bees and everything else. So it's not pleasant to work in the woods on the ground on foot in the summertime, so I try not to. Plus I've got plenty to do in my own garden, so I've got to get this done before the bugs come out, the critters come out, the vegetation grows up a lot more, and it makes it more difficult to try to do. So we'll work on this today and probably come back another day for this dead one and that stump. So I've got plenty more wood here that is available to me to cut, so I'm well on my way to having next year's firewood process, so I don't have to worry about it. Hopefully we won't get a lot of rain that'll impede doing this. So thank you for watching again. I'll probably do kind of a follow-up. I'll show you pile when I get it back to the farm, just so that you can see how much wood there was between these two trees. But other than that, thank you for watching, and please subscribe to our channel. After about a half an hour of cutting, you can see that I have this tree, the first one I showed you on the video, is all cut up. So it's going to yield a fair amount of firewood, as you can see. Not too much as far as wasted top branches. I'll just pitch those into the woods. They're too small to use. As I said before, anything smaller than 1.5 inches or 2 inches aren't worth my time. But the rest of the stuff should all burn well. It's just got to season well before I can use it, of course. But it's some nice oak. I mean, it was a perfectly healthy tree. There's no rot in it. So it's good solid wood. It's a shame that it blew over. It just one of those things. And it wasn't really quite big enough for a saw log, so there's no timber harvester going to bother with just one log laying somewhere, so it really wouldn't have been able to be used for that if it blew over, unless I was already having timber cut. So I'll come back to you with the next tree once I get that one all cut up, but this one is ready to haul. I've got an issue here where this is. It's just too wet to get the truck all the way down here. You can see where I have it parked up there on the hill. Around to the left, I can kind of come down over the shoulder of the hill there, about halfway, I think, before it gets to be too soft. So basically it's going to be a lot of grunt work. Bring the wheelbarrow down here, fill the wheelbarrow, push it up the hill, load the truck, come back and keep doing that until it's done. Unfortunately, there's no easier way to do that right now. As I said, because it's just, this field is too wet. I'd just get the truck stuck, and the heavier I loaded it with firewood, the more stuck it would get. So that'll be the plan. So I'll come back to you when I get the other tree all cut up, and you can take a look at that. And once I get it all back to the house, I'm gonna pile this next to the woodshed for right now, since I know I'm not going to be burning this right away. And what I've decided I'm going to do is, when I finish clearing out the last bay that has some junk wood in it, just to get me that I put in there just to get me through the rest of the burning season this year, I will start filling that with this stuff. Once it's the pieces that get split, and then it will have the maximum time to season. And then if I get to the end of the burning season next year and I don't need this, well, then it can just sit in the bay for the following year, which would be even more ideal. So we'll see what happens on that, but I'll be back to you. All right, we got the second tree cut up now. As you can see here, going out through there, so that is ready to haul out of here. Obviously I got a lot of splitting to do with this tree, because its pieces are thick enough to do that almost all the way up through until you get to the very top. So we'll have to do that. But again, like I said, I'm just going to put all this on a pile outside of the woodshed for now until I can get to it. Maybe even later in the summer, I'm not sure. I do want to get it done as soon as possible, but this isn't as much of a priority as some of the others, just because I know it's green. I can't burn it right away. And as you can see, interestingly here, once I took the weight off of this root ball, it is starting to tip backwards. I don't know if you can see it. It's moving very slowly. Just started a little bit ago. I think it might just flop back down. If not, I'll help it along a little bit. But I've seen them already, that when they're tipped over like this and you cut close enough to the trunk, it'll actually spring back upright, and you have to be a little careful you don't get hit with the flying piece of trunk. But in this case, it didn't move once I sliced the last. Well, I went 2 slices up before I cut the main one here, and then I sliced the very end one. But as you can see, there's no more weight holding the roots up, and so they're just slowly working their way back downwards. Whether they'll make it all the way or not on their own, I don't know. I mean, this one wasn't dangerous, and I knew it wouldn't be because there was just so much weight on the other end. I wasn't so worried about anything really flying up. And it's been laying like this for a number of months. So, but this is a danger that when you're dealing with downed trees, you can't predict where the tension is always on the on the trunk, the weight of the trunk, and you have to be careful you don't get your saw bound, because if you cut from the wrong direction, it'll pinch and then you're stuck. I've had that happen to me where I had to get my second saw to kind of relieve the tension to get the first saw unbound. And then, as I said, sometimes these things can swing back up, so you just have to be careful. Like I've said through all of my videos on dealing with a chainsaw and cutting wood, safety first. You always err on the side of caution. You don't do anything stupid, and especially when you're making like a last cut like this, you go slow and easy, and you pay attention, and you feel what you're feeling with the saw. You feel what you're feeling when the trunk, if you can feel the tension or not, and you're always ready to have an escape route that you can get out of the way if needed. Now again, as I said, this thing's continuing to tip over. I'll give it a push and see if it'll go or not. Well, there's a little bit of give there. Eventually gravity, I guess, will pull it back over, but it's just interesting. So we'll gather the rest of this up. I've got to load both trees now, get them out of the woods here. You can see the truck is a good distance. This is always the most miserable part of doing this because you're not close to your vehicle for loading. But to let a good oak tree like this that was just going to rot in the woods go to waste would be just a shame. So I can't let that happen, even if it takes a little bit more work to get it back home and get it processed. But hey, exercise is always good. Fresh air is always good. There's never a bad day when you're in the woods in the fresh air and out in nature. So if it involves a little extra grunt work, so be it. But that's part of living out in the country. You don't want everybody to do everything for you and have everything always be easy. It's something you want to accomplish on your own for you and your family. And it's part of the freedoms we have, at least so far. This is the way our ancestors lived. This is the way this nation was carved. People just went into nature and civilized it, tamed it. And that's okay. They still conserved it. They still protected it because they wanted it to be around. They didn't want to just use it all up and have it be totally decimated. I'll give you another quick history lesson for no extra charge here. If you look at places in the Middle East, especially Israel, the surrounding countryside, Lebanon, Jordan, towards Egypt, a lot of that's very much desert now. And a lot of people would think, well, it was always desert like that, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. The truth of the matter is those lands were heavily forested. They were very verdant. But what happened is when the Ottoman Turk Empire took over, they needed wood to run the trains because they had train tracks going, through the area for trade and part of their. So since it wasn't their homeland, they didn't care. They clear-cut everything and they just decimated the ecology. Now, nations like Israel and Jordan have come back to replant and resow crops and timber and other shrubbery and things like that. So it is greening up again. But that was definitely a man-made thing. The Ottoman Turks didn't care. These were infidel lands as far as their Islamic religion was concerned. So they didn't care what they did to it. And for a long time, that land was just barren. So that's why you need to have people living on the land who own it and who want to have a future there for their families. They're the best environmentalists. They will take care of the land for future generations because it's in their best interest to do so. So that's why these silly city bureaucrats should just leave us country folk alone and let us manage nature here by ourselves, because we know more about doing it than they ever will, no matter how many studies they've read or how many courses they've taken. Instead of government being there to help, the country folks, whether you were talking farmers or loggers or other kinds of herdsmen, cowboys, whatever. Instead of being there to help them be more productive, they want to dictate. And most of the time they're absolutely stupid in what they require, and when they have the force of the bureaucracy and even dumber Congress people, you get the mess we have. I mean, I just read a story recently about a man who went to jail because he dug a pond on his farm. Now come on, cut me a break. Is this America or is this the Soviet Union? At any rate, I'll get off the soapbox now, and we'll get this tree taken care of. So thank you for watching, and please keep that in mind when you vote. Find people who want to protect our freedoms and not make us slaves of what they think is some deified nature. Let the people who are here decide how to live, and not people in a 20th floor apartment somewhere in Washington, D.C. All right, enough of the rant. So back to work, and thank you for watching, and we will keep you updated on our other projects here on Country Living on a Shoestring. Please share this with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed yet, we invite you to do so. Thank you.